And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You're tuned in to Tapped Out. Hosted by Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine. Only on the BetQL network.
Goodness gracious, we got action everywhere. Inside the Octagon, Macy Barber is fighting. Florida Atlantic is beating K-State right now in the Elite Eight with 132 left. The Owls are at the line. I've never seen an Owl shoot a free throw, so we'll see how this goes. Up and no good. 3-point game right now with 130 left. And we also have to bring on a guest as we speak. JHK from the Allstar joining us now. Appreciate it, man. Hey, we were talking about, since it is March Madness and since it's been a crazy tournament and our sport, MMA, in my opinion, provides the best upsets ever. What's your favorite MMA upset of all time?
That's hard to say. There's been so many, but you got to put Matt Serra up there, right? Matt Serra coming in against GSP. That's a crazy upset. And tonight, you got Holly Holmes fighting, and Holly Holm, that head kick. I don't know which one was more spectacular, to be honest with you, because Ronda Rousey, I think, was at the highest peak compared to maybe say a GSP at that time. So it's a toss up with that. But I like the Matt Serra one because I just like Matt Serra. I just like him as a person. You know what I mean? He's just a funny character. And, that plays a big part in fighting. You know what I mean? You get attached to fighters, and he's a guy that I've been attached to, and he makes me laugh. And you've seen him in the corner, right? Like when he corners fighters, he's hilarious.
He's great.
Yeah. That whole crew is the lot of them together is one of the best teams out there. Just for character scores as it is. JHK is a guy who's good at head kicks. Is Chito Vera. Sandhagen also with some spectacular stuff. What do you think of this main event tonight?
It's like you said it, spectacular. These guys are dynamic, both of them, different like styles in striking, but both of them just phenomenal in their arsenal, and they're always developing as well. So it's hard to say what we're going to see in this fight because both guys train with some of the best coaches, have some of the best training partners in the world. And I'm edging towards Sandhagen just because he's just more fleet of foot. I think like he's just a more advanced version of Dominic Cruz. And when you look at that fight, Dominic Cruz was doing pretty good against Chito until he got knocked off. You know what I mean? His head got blown off by that head kick. I'm leaning towards Sandhagen to dance around and be patient and not fall into the trap, because Chito's very good at setting traps, and he's set a lot of traps for these veterans. But Sandhagen's, he's a veteran, but he's not like an old veteran, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. JHK, speaking of head kicks, let's go back to Leon versus Usman. We all know what happened the first time around. Just if you've got your crystal ball out, if you can see in the future a little bit, do you think there's a chance that when it's all said and done, Leon's legacy is better than Usman's?
I think so. I think that Leon doesn't have the injuries. He doesn't carry that load moving forward like Usman. Usman was carrying the injuries and still performing at a high level, and I feel like that caught up to him in the last couple of fights, especially this one. Francis Ngannou said that Leon or Usman barely trained for this championship fight. That's concerning to me. Why would you barely train for a championship fight and still take the fight? You could have maybe delayed it. You've been a long reigning champion. You might have a little bit of pull, but I guess you got to take your chances when you get them. So I think Leon, he has a possibility of having a longer reign as a champion. His skill set is getting better. His wrestling defense is better. His submission defense is better. And a lot of guys, that's their threat. And of course, his bread and butter, his striking. It's very technical, and we know he has the knockout power.
That being said, what did you make with Dana coming out last week and announcing that Colby's the number one contender? It's he's not a guy who typically makes fights the night of the fight or the night after fights. They had that one in the All-Star. I get it. He was the backup, but with Masvidal, coming up in a couple of weeks here, and a very obvious storyline with Leon if he gets the win. Bilal Muhammad, we talked about him last segment about, is he getting the most overlooked or the most disrespected here? Why all of a sudden is Colby just kind of getting this kick to the front of the line?
Maybe Dana White's just playing puppet master. He wants the media to create a storm, and maybe there's a backdoor deal happening we don't know about with Colby. But Colby, once he gets into the circuit, right, of the news and interviews, he just creates chaos, and that's what he wants to do every single time. And he's just saying what he needs to say to get into the headlines. He just saying what he needs to say to get a stir out of people, and we know it's an act. And people fall for it over and over and over again and take it seriously. I don't take it seriously, but Dana White saying that Colby Covington has the next title shot, I feel like that's just a placeholder until some of these fights play out coming up in the future.
I actually think JHK that he's the one that gives Leon the best fight, and I might actually put my money down on Colby. Like, we're talking about how great Leon is and how he could overtake Usman's reign and how he could be a long champion. And now I'm talking out the other side of my mouth. And I've been saying this since we've been doing this radio show. I think that Colby is a top 10 fighter in the world. I think that he was as close to Usman as anybody for years at the weight class. He just wasn't Usman. And now that he's out of the picture, he's got his shot. I think Colby's great. I know that he's a shtick and he's a pain in the ass and he's got all these different reasons why we want to see other guys, but I think there's a good chance he beats him, man.
I agree with you. It's all about the matchup, and Colby has the skill set, and he's still young. Did you see that statistic about champions or title fights with guys over the age of 35? It's like 3 and 31 or something like that. It's something crazy, and Colby's not even close to that age. I don't believe. I think he's in his early 30s. But yeah, he has the skill set to beat Leon, and he has the boring, like, I don't want to say boring, but he has the methodical way of, winning the title, throughout 5 rounds. I still think he's a top 5 fighter in the world at welterweight. I feel like he has a chance of beating a lot of the guys. He just hasn't had the strength of schedule. That's the argument with a lot of people, is that Colby hasn't beaten a top 10 or top 15 guy in a long time. But I think he can beat those guys if he's matched up with them. But Colby's smart as well, and he wants to find the easiest path to the title, and he found it. Gilbert Burns was telling me that Colby hasn't fought in like a year, and somehow, after a year you get taken out of the rankings, but somehow he slithered in there to be the backup for 286, and now he stays in the rankings and is the back, and now he's leading into a title shot for some reason, and that's the reason, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing that I just find weird about it. Like you do mention, like Colby is very talented. It's not the most pleasing style. Now, he's also not the most boring wrestler in the world, because he's a lot of like pace and is throwing strikes in the middle of it and just wearing guys down. So he's also not just like a lay and pray type of guy. But even still, like, I feel like everybody is usually wanting the striking matchup, and he's got to have artificial heat. Like if Masvidal wins, that's genuine heat with Leon. So I don't know. It's just it is a strange thing that he's found himself in this position. Speaking of crowded title pictures, though, tonight with this 135 division, which is very, very crowded, we let off the show today. I said typically this would definitely be a number 1 contender fight, but I can't say that for sure. I don't know who's going to get the title shot after they settle with Triple C and Aljo. What does tonight ultimately mean? What do you think what is on the line for tonight? Because other than it just being a fan fight, we're gonna love it. It's gonna be amazing. But does anybody get anything out of tonight for sure winning?
I feel like you get someone in the mix. That's what you get. You got Sean O'Malley, and you got Merab. Merab's probably at home praying that. It's kind of weird. Like, you would pray for Henry Cejudo to win so you could get a title shot, but you're praying for your friend to keep the title. He's in a weird position. Yeah, weird position. It's for him. And I just wonder, does Aljo feel the same way since he's the champion? If the roles were reversed.
It's funny, like, what makes you a worse friend? Wanting to fight your friend or wishing your friend failure so you could have success? It's a good question. I feel like I'd rather my friend just fight me than wish upon my downfall.
Yeah, fight me at that point. Yeah, just fight me.
Exactly. That's what I've been saying the whole time, is like, if you're good friends, and you have friends from when you were young, and you have an opportunity to make money, a lot of money together, even though you're punching each other in the face. You've been probably they punch each other in the face all the time. Why not go, in front of the world and do it and show what you're really capable of? Because we don't know for sure, right? We don't know exactly what happens behind closed doors when they train. And I would like to see it, and I would like to see it on the biggest stage, but it's very, very odd to see Merab take this position, because I don't know if the roles were reversed, would Aljo be doing the same thing? That's the biggest question to me.
I'd fight my own grandmother for a big enough paycheck. Just let that be known. And she'd probably be the favorite, but I'd give it a shot. Brendan Tobin, Sports Machine, Sean Levine, JHK from the Allstar at JHK MMA is our guest for the next couple of minutes here, tapped out on the BetQL network. Adesanya versus Pereira again. We've seen this fight a couple of times in kickboxing. We saw it once in mixed martial arts. So far, it hasn't gone great for the style bender, and he's the favorite to win the fight. Which one you putting your money on?
It's a tight one too, man. I have so much respect for Adesanya, because when he was champion, he just continued to defend the belt. Whoever came along, he fought, and he fought with quick turnarounds as well. And then he even chased after the guy that arguably didn't even deserve a title shot, but he had some history with, and the UFC wanted it as bad as well. And it might be just too early, but I see Adesanya as someone that's very, very intelligent. His team is very, very intelligent in their approach, and maybe they saw something from the tape, that from the first 4 rounds, that they could take advantage of. And I feel like we might see Adesanya regain that title. I think we're going to see Adesanya regain that title. I think he's going to come in smarter. And Pereira, man, I don't know. When is that weight cut going to catch up to him? That's what I'm always waiting for. When is the weight cut going to catch up to Pereira? Because he's a massive, massive guy. And we've seen him gas, in kickboxing. And but that power's still there, right? So I don't think it's going to last very long. I think it's going to be done in 3 rounds, that fight.
Yeah, but let's talk about the matchup everybody's really looking forward to. Who you got next week in Game Bred Fighter Boxing? Roy Jones Jr., or do you have Showtime Pettis?
I'm taking Roy Jones Jr. I love that guy.
I love him too. I love Roy Jones Jr.
If you're from that era, if you've seen that like live, that thing happening, it's like when Anderson Silva was doing his thing and you were alive and watching the sport in each event. It was just crazy. Roy Jones Jr. was the same exact thing. Mike Tyson, I was watching Mike Tyson as a young kid live, those fights, and Roy Jones Jr. He still has it too. If you watch that fight against Tyson, he still has it. And the angles and Pettis without kicks. What is he? I don't know what he is. I'm very interested to see like him as a boxer, but I got Roy Jones Jr. in that fight. I think he pieces him up.
Speaking of Anderson Silva, JHK, I was just arguing with my buddy during commercial break. We were talking about the biggest upsets of all time. By the way, speaking of upsets, Florida Atlantic, the Owls. Wow. Take out K-State and move on to the Final Four. So the first member of the Final Four, who had that? The Owls of Florida Atlantic. Real quick, back to Anderson Silva. Do we think that when Weidman knocked him out, do we count that as an upset? Because he was messing around. Like, you don't mess around like that in the octagon, even if you're Anderson Silva. And I know that's what he's done in the past. Is that a top 5, top 10 greatest upset? Or is it like, he was kind of jerking around, so I don't put it up there?
I don't know if it's top 5, but it is definitely an upset. And Anderson, he built a career off playing with his opponents, right?
For sure.
As a title, as a champion, and he played with the wrong guy, right? And just leaned. He just didn't lean far enough, right? That's what happened. And Weidman clipped him. I love the fight because I was always, on Anderson, and one of my best friends was like, "This is the fight." He told me, "This is the fight. I'm gonna bet you 10 steak dinners that Weidman." Wow. Guess what happened? I lost 10
That's a lot of steak. That's a lot of steak to lose.
A lot of steak, dude.
Wow. All right.
What can you do, man?
Yeah, sometimes you don't get the meat, and sometimes you do, and that night wasn't yours. We appreciate you, man. We had a lot of fun with you, JHK. We're going to bring you on again sometime soon. JHK from the Allstar. You can follow him on Twitter at JHK MMA. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much for the time. And yeah, I'll be back whenever you guys want.
All right,
Appreciate it,
man. Brendan, FAU. What in the
can't believe
FAU
that,
is
dude.
going on, dude? What?
Dude,
And I knew they were going to get teams
FAU
trouble. What? They're in the Final Four? That's crazy.
It's like the 8th most famous school in Florida. Like, it's pretty wild. This school in Boca Raton is like, I don't. What are we doing? We're going. Everybody, we're going down to Town Center Mall in Boca. It's like a retirement.
Let's go to
community
Town
city,
Center.
dude.
I don't know where that is, but it sounds
There's a
great.
cheesecake
Town Center
factory in
Mall with
Boca.
A cheesecake factory. It's a good
Yeah.
place. Really good cheesecake, actually. The cheesecake.
Shout out to the
Factory.
Owls.
Coming up
dude.
next. Are you kidding me? Some news and notes, and we'll preview 287. You're locked into the BetQL network. Hoot, hoot. He's